You can text as well, 81333, and start your message CAM. Let's get some reaction to these consultation responses. Leanna Etkind is from the group Cambridge Parents for the Sustainable Travel Zone. Hi, Leanna.
Hello there, good morning.
And Neil Mackay is the owner of Mackay's Hardware in Cambridge. Neil, good morning.
Good morning, Dottie.
Thank you for joining us today. Leanna, your take on this opposition stat: 58% of people responding to the consultation, they don't want this congestion charge.
It's a real shame that so many people are opposing what is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make Cambridge a more livable city, a city where there's actually decent buses, which there aren't at the moment, and to improve road safety and air pollution. And what's really interesting is when you look at previous cities like London, like Gothenburg, like Ljubljana, who have introduced road charging measures. At the beginning, it's always the same. There's big opposition to it. More than 50% of people oppose it. But come back in 5 or 10 years' time and ask people if they want to return to how things were, with lots of congestion, lots of traffic, bad air. And universally, people say no. We like living in a city where people walk and talk to their neighbours, where it's quieter, where children can play in the street and feel safe to do so. In Ljubljana, at the beginning in 2007, only 40% of people wanted to have a car-free city. And in 10 years' time, 97% of people said, no, let's keep the city the way it is, as a livable, convivial, human-scale city. So I expect that if Cambridge does opt to have a sustainable travel zone, which I very much hope it does, people will see the evidence of what it means to have quality active travel and quality buses, and decide that this is what we need to do.
Okay, let's get some response to that from Neil Mackay. You've been very opposed to this idea of a congestion charge. What do you make of what we've seen in the consultation responses?
Well, there's not an awful lot of surprises. My main surprise is the fact that it's only 58%, because talking to people out in the city, there's a great deal higher level than that amongst the general public. That's 58% of the people who actually responded. It's 24,000, but there's a much larger population around.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, people who feel strongly in favour or strongly against something like this are surely more likely to take part in a consultation. So does that not mean it's likely to be kind of representative of both ends of that spectrum?
Yes, well, I mean, even though the GCP's had 6 months to actually pore over these figures, we've only had 3 or 4 days. We looking through it. In fact, if you actually ask an open question like, do you want better buses, etc.? Yes, of course. Everybody's going to say that. They do want better buses. I would like better buses. I'm on that side of the argument as well. But there are different ways of funding this, and we've made a number of suggestions to Peter Blake, the Transport Director of the GCP, about 2 months ago. He actually replied to me on the day before the release of the results at 10 o'clock at night for some reason, you know, basically the whole of Cambridge is really not designed to actually accept the sort of changes they're proposing. It's a medieval city. The lady who was just talking was talking about Gothenburg and London, where they have boulevard-wide streets. Cambridge is like trying to put a quart into a pint pot.
Leanna, is that a fair enough point, that Cambridge, it isn't Gothenburg, it isn't Ljubljana?
Cambridge is a different city, but what it shares with those cities is that it's facing, all these cities are facing a climate emergency and worse air, and it's a city where, like everywhere, people want to live good lives and not spend hours sitting in their car in traffic, wasting their time.
I suppose there's different ways, though, of defining livable, and some people would say that if they're having to pay £5 to move their car around their city, that makes it unlivable for them in a different way. It makes it unaffordable for them.
The plans are always have different effects on different groups, but the system we live in at the moment impacts the poorest people worst. So the people who tend to use buses tend to be people who either can't afford a car or live in a household where they can only afford one car, and that cuts them off from social opportunities, from education, and crucially from jobs. There are so many businesses in Cambridge which have jobs, but if you live in an outlying village and you don't have a car, you cannot get to that job and that income. And also, of course, it's disabled and older people who often we don't see because they are stuck inside in front of their televisions because there are no decent public transport options in the city.
Some interesting points there, Neil, about people who rely on public transport really needing it to be better.
Indeed, but the public transport doesn't deliver the results that are required. The elderly, the sick, the people who are going to places like Addenbrooke's, etc., which is included in the zone and very controversially included in the zone. I was up there having an operation recently, and I could not find a single person within Addenbrooke's who would support this. In fact, even though their chief executive apparently does, they were absolutely astonished.
Neil Mackay, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's such a controversial topic. It's such a hot potato in the Cambridge area at the moment. I know that we could discuss this for much longer. We will be talking about it further just after 8 o'clock on the show this morning. Neil Mackay there, the owner of Mackay's Hardware in Cambridge, opposed to the idea of a congestion charge for the city. We also heard from Leanna Etkind from Cambridge Parents for the Sustainable Travel Zone. On the way in the next 5